Another 3D feature that exists in Illustrator, which is much better than the one that exists in Photoshop, is the ability to extrude. I'm going to zoom in on this little area here, and I have the high-res version open in the background. So let's look at that. And you see here that we have these large letters that are extruded. See, they have a little side to them. Likewise down here is the smaller ones. They have this extrusion that's been applied to them. Let's go see how that was done. So here we come into Illustrator where we see we have some type. It says lynda.com, and what we're going to do is extrude this type so it has a little dimension to it. I'm going to select it, and it doesn't have to be rasterized or anything. We use it as straight type. And I'm going to come up here to my 3D effects, and we see that we have extrude and bevel, the first choice. So I'm going to click on that one, and we'll preview it right off the bat. There you can see that we've already added some dimension to the letters. Now, in playing with this window here, we could do a lot of things to it. For one thing, I could bring down my extrusion depth. I could bring it down so maybe it's just a little bit. Let's just say we want to do it at about 10. That sounds about right. So there, it's just a little bit of an extrusion, which was the case in the letters that we just saw in Times Square. Let's give it a little more just so we can exaggerate this. Let's go to 40. Now, you'll notice there are other controls here. Like, for instance, I can play with the perspective. So I can bring up this little slider here, and as I move it, you can see that I am actually shifting the perspective of this view. Let's do it even more. Let's go way and exaggerate it quite a bit. So you can see I have this great perspective happening here. And I can play around with my lighting, set up my lighting so I have lighting coming from another side so we can get the nice highlights where we want them. But we have the ability to go in there and create these nice three-dimensional shapes. Now, in the case of the Times Square, I didn't play with the perspective. I used the perspective of the scene itself to go in there and create the letters. And now we need to shift that light around so that we can see the letters from the front and get a much better view of what this thing is going to look like. And just give it just a little perspective, just for the fun of it, right there. And we click OK, and we see that we're going to have these nice three-dimensional letters that have some depth to them. And if necessary, we can add additional textures and stuff once we bring this into Photoshop.